Welcome back to Body Talk with Becks. In this week's episode, I speak with Lily, who was born with Vacterl and was adopted and just has a really crazy story. So this week, let's just jump right on into the interview with her. Hi.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out on social media.
Yeah, of course. I listened to pretty much everything on your podcast and I was like, oh, this is a great platform, and I've loved your podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, it felt really scary, like getting started and putting myself out there, but I've gotten to meet some fantastic people. So
Yeah.
So do you want to just take us through what you've been going through? I mean, it sounds like you said Vacterl. Do you want to go letter by letter, or?
I don't know what would be the best, because I have a little bit of an unusual situation. So I guess I'll just start from the beginning then.
Yeah.
So I was born in China, and then I lived in China for the first 5 years of my life. And then I was adopted when I was 5.5 years old. But so, yeah, I was born with Vacterl. And I guess I'll just quickly say what I have and then go into what we did. So I have the V, A, R, and L. So vertebral, I have caudal regression syndrome and tethered cord. And then for A, I have cloaca. And then R, I have an atrophic left kidney, so it's a lot smaller, and I think it only functions at like 10%, so it's basically non-existent. And then L, I was born with clubfoot, and then I also have a leg length difference, so my right leg is a little bit shorter than my left leg. So those are the components of Vacterl that I have. And so in China, I guess my first surgery was when I was about a year old, and that was to fix my clubfoot. And so that happened. And then about like several months later, I had my first initial like reconstruction, like pelvic reconstruction, but that wasn't really done right and everything like that. We don't know exactly what they did because medical records back and forth, it's difficult. So, but the doctors are like, yeah, they didn't really do it right. So when I got adopted, I was adopted in November of 2008. And basically right away, my parents knew I had like not issues, but like all these challenges and what I was born with and stuff. So they immediately were like ready to start like making sure I was okay. And so doctors visits started happening. They were sending videos of how I walked, because I walk with a limp, and then I fell all the time because of my tethered cord. They didn't know that was a thing, but I've had it since I was a baby. And then yeah, so just all those appointments happening. So yeah, I fell a lot, and then my parents were trying to figure out like why and all this stuff happening. And then I was also dealing with incontinent issues, both bladder and bowel, because I was still living with what they called a rectovaginal fistula. So I still had a fistula between my like vaginal canal and my rectum. So I wasn't able to like control anything. And so we ended up going to Cincinnati for all my, I guess, big procedures, big surgeries. And so I got, the first one I had there was my tethered cord release. That was when I was 6. So I was adopted at 5.5. And then first surgery before I turned 6. It was February. So a couple months after I was adopted, actually. And then I had a break, but still doctor's visits. And then in the summer of 2009, I had my like big reconstruction where they had to like move my rectum and put it into place and all these other things. And I missed like the first 2 weeks of kindergarten and wasn't able to go to school for a little bit. And then yeah, I had to do bowel management, start a bowel management routine, which started out as like rectal enemas once a day. And then I got like a Malone surgery, which is where they took my appendix and attached it to my belly button. And then I just run like a catheter through that and basically flush out my system once a day. So I've had that for like 12 years. I'm experiencing that. And then the tethered cord caused me to have like neurogenic bowel and bladder, which is why I have to do the flush. And then I also cath through my urethra. So I've been cathing since I was 5. And then I started self-cathing when I was like 7 because I was like, I don't want my mom to do it anymore. Yeah. But yeah, those are all my like big surgeries in childhood, I guess. Yeah.
Wow. And I assume you still have things going on like to this day that you deal with.
So I get yearly checkups like kidney ultrasound, and then I sometimes get blood work. It kind of depends on when the doctor's like, oh, maybe we should do it. So like every other year or whatever. And then I also get like a urine test. But recently, so like we thought everything was great. Like during my childhood, everything was great. And then about junior year of high school, I started to have some issues with like my bowel routine not going well and having to deal with all that stuff. And then I was having some back pain and leg pain. And so we were like, oh, maybe like my tethered cord had reattached, like my spinal cord had reattached. So I had to get an MRI for that. And they're like, nope, you're all clear. And so, well, because of all those issues, I was only seeing one doctor, one urologist who dealt with both the bowel and bladder side of things. And so, but he was all the way, so I live up in Washington. So he was all the way in South Carolina at the time. And then that was during COVID. So I wasn't able to go see him. And so he's wrote me a referral to like Seattle Children's to get all that done. And I got the MRI and it came back clear. But because of all the other issues I was having, I ended up meeting with their pelvic reconstructive medicine clinic team. And so I went from like one doctor to like 6 doctors, which is actually really good because I needed all those doctors to help like do everything and make sure I was okay in all of my aspects. So I was meeting with them, and because they're new doctors, they wanted to like run a couple tests and make sure like see how my body functions and see like the anatomy of everything because I'm new and complicated. And so I had an exam under anesthesia done July of like after my junior year. So that July I had an exam under anesthesia where the gynecologist had to, because I had a vaginal reconstruction, like a vaginoplasty back when I was 6, but we didn't do anything afterwards. Usually after a vaginoplasty, you have to go in and dilate, but I was way too young for that.
Yeah.
So she was like, yeah, way too young. No. And so she went in and I had some stenosis at the surface level. So she cut and opened it up because I was interested in starting vaginal dilations to make it so that I can eventually have sex. But so she did the exam, and then the general surgeon who specializes in colorectal, she was also in the exam room and she wanted to do like a nerve simulator to see how my sacral nerve moved and everything like that. And it turns out while she was doing exam, it turns out my rectum was not where it was supposed to be still.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it was outside of the like sphincter muscle complex. And so from then on, we started doing more tests. So another MRI. And then I had what was called a anal rectal manometry, where they test like the muscles down there and stuff like that to like get a better sense of like the anatomy of my body. So she would know if I did choose to do surgery, like how everything worked and how well everything worked. And then just a lot of appointments because I like live several hours away. I live like 4 hours away from Seattle Children's. We did a lot of telehealth appointments and stuff like that, just like talking and her explaining everything. And so just a lot of back and forth communication. And then I did end up opting to go for surgery because there was a chance that it could help everything function better. And so I got that surgery done in November, like the week before Thanksgiving, because I got discharged Thanksgiving Day. And so that was a whole big process, and it was crazy because it's my senior year of high school. I wasn't expecting this, but it turned out well. I was in the hospital for like 7 days. So I was there the day before to do prep, and then the day of surgery. So I was on a clear liquid diet, sugar-free diet for like 6 days the day before. And then the day of surgery, I wasn't even allowed to eat anything, even after surgery, drink anything, even after surgery. And then for the next 5 days after that, I was on clear liquid, sugar-free diets. No one was allowed to eat in front of me. I the way I did my classes, I FaceTime some people in some of the classes, depended on the teacher. But like my Spanish class, I FaceTimed my friend, but I always made sure not to FaceTime at certain points because on every Thursday we would eat chips and queso and watch a show. So I had to make sure like once all the chips and queso was dished out, then I could FaceTime because I wouldn't see it. And so I FaceTimed, but I had to go through all of that. And then I was finally home and I was, doing okay, recovering. And then after let's see, from December 7th was when I went back to school. And then I was back to school. That was, I think, a Wednesday. So I was back to school for the next 3 days until I ended up getting a really bad UTI that got to my kidneys. It was not fun to deal with. We were trying to get a hold of my doctor, like calling, and finally my mom was like, I'm paging the on-call urology resident because we have to get you on some things, because it had been a day of me just on the couch with terrible body aches and side pain. The side pain was terrible.
Yeah, I fully know what you're talking about with that.
Oh, yes. Those kidney infections. Oh, yeah. So I finally got some antibiotics. I was doing great. I was able to go back to school, took vacation. We did a family trip we used to live in Louisiana, in New Orleans, and we loved the city there. So we went down for Christmas and then to the beach and everything like that. And then I got back. Then I got another infection.
No.
That one also hit my kidney.
Was that hitting your healthy kidney or
we don't know exactly which one. It was just side pain. It was mostly on my unhealthy one, which is, I guess it's good. I don't know. It was mostly like side pain on my left side, and then it would radiate a little bit to my right side. But got antibiotics for that, was doing okay for like another couple weeks. Then I got another infection. Oh no, I was doing okay for about a month and a half, because I was able to go to Costa Rica on a missions trip with my Spanish class during spring break. But after spring break, I got 2 more infections. So one happened, got antibiotics, and then I thought I was fine. And then a couple of days later, I start getting symptoms again, go back to urgent care, use up another antibiotic. But then they told me, like, because the culture has to run, they told me like 3 days after I got those antibiotics, you need to switch. So I switched to a different one, and that lasted until like beginning week of June, I think. So I was on antibiotics for a little while, and I've been clean since. But after having so many infections in such a short amount of time, you get slightly paranoid, not like complete paranoia, but you're like, oh, it looks a little cloudy, oh, does it hurt,
you're
everything
overthinking
like that.
it completely.
Yeah, I'm like, is this another infection? Because if I do get another one, I have to tell my doctor, because I think he's gonna, if I do, he would put me on a low dose of antibiotics for like a month to kick everything out and kind of go from there. But so far so good.
Yeah. I mean, that's got to be really hard on your immune system too. The back and forth of not just having the infection, but also the antibiotics.
Yeah.
That's a lot for your body to handle.
It is. It caused a lot of issues. And then I was on a probiotic because try to combat the antibiotic. So I've been taking probiotics ever since. I started taking a cranberry supplement to, get all those healthy vitamins and minerals. But if I do ever start, I chug a whole bottle of cranberry juice and a bunch of water. Yeah.
That's what we always did. Yeah. When I was a kid and like felt something coming on. It's like, okay, who's got cranberry juice?
Where is it? Where is it? I know we have
Go to
some
the
somewhere.
store.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. And so is your limp pretty much gone as well too now then? Did they like completely fix that with that surgery when you were younger?
No, because the limb is more of like a bone like length difference, not really like muscle or anything like that. Like I do have low muscle tone on my right side because of the tethered cord, but the tethered cord helped with like some bladder and bowel issues, and then it allowed my leg to actually get stronger as I walked more and stuff and not fall basically as much. But as far as limb length, my limbs, like I think it got a little bit longer as I grew. Like it grew with my body, but it's still not the same length as my left leg. But apparently it's not as noticeable as, I think it is, because sometimes like I've had several occasions where like my math teacher in 8th grade was like, Lily, are you okay? Like you're limping. And I was like, oh, I always have a limp. I think at least, because my leg is shorter, but it comes and goes. Usually when I'm more tired, like if I've walked around a lot, then it's a lot more prevalent and stuff like that. So yeah.
Gotcha. So it only bothers you like sometimes.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. I can pretty much do whatever I want. I can go hike up a mountain, or I mean it takes me longer because I have short legs. First of all, I'm short. And then it doesn't have as much endurance, I guess, because it's low muscle tone and so not as much power and endurance. But I can, if we want to go hike 6 miles, it might take me a while, but I will go still hike 6 miles. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. I mean, it sounds like you've been through quite a lot. And it sounds like you had parents who adopted you who just were ready to take it on.
Yes.
And wanted to give you like the best that you could have, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. So I assume your communication with them, like they were pretty open about talking to you about everything.
Yeah. So my mom was the main, like she was the main person coming to the doctor's appointments, mostly because they were up in Cincinnati. So it would always be like dad had to stay home because I have 3 other siblings, 2 older brothers and a younger sister.
Wow.
But like during the intensive parts, dad would have to be home. He was in the military, so he had to work and then take care of my brothers. And while mom and I went up to Cincinnati, and then so she's basically been the main like person who knows everything. I'll still call her about stuff, and if I'm like out and trying to sign into something and check in, like today I was texting her like, what about this, like do I need to put this on? And so she's the medical parent, I guess. And she's always just been there for every surgery, every infection, everything, every appointment. And my dad's kind of the comic relief. Like he knows how to cheer me up when I'm not feeling well and knows how to, make me smile and can joke about all the poop and pee stuff with me because that's, a regular part of my life. So he's more moral support, and my mom knows how to approach things more and be able to be like, oh, okay, so we tried this, let's try this now. And she was able to help me navigate like, oh, I want to go out with, like, especially when I was younger, and we wanted to do sleepovers, like, oh, let's have them sleep over here, and stuff like that.
I swear moms are like superheroes with how much they do for us.
Yes, such superheroes.
Yeah, my mom was always the medical parent as well. And dad was the fun, like, let's go get ice cream.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I guess you went to just regular school most of the time then. It sounded like only just in high school that you had to, video chat in.
Yeah, so I missed the first 2 weeks of first 2 weeks of kindergarten. So I was only in public school from kindergarten to second grade. And then we moved, and my mom didn't like the school system. So we homeschooled. She homeschooled all four of us.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yes,
What a
she
chore.
homeschooled all. Yeah, exactly. She homeschooled all four of us until when did my brother go to school? I think my brother first went to because now we all go to a private school. We all went through private school, and so my oldest brother, who's now 21, when he started going to the school his freshman year, then my other brother, who's the same age as me, he went his 7th grade year. I went in my 8th grade year, and then my younger sister went in her 6th grade year, I believe. So we homeschooled for a really long time, and then kind of like transition, because the private school also has like a homeschool once a week co-op sort of thing. So we were able to like transition from just mom to then, oh, we're gonna do co-op, and then we went through co-op and then went to, I guess, normal school.
That's a really cool. I don't think I've heard of that.
Yeah, it was a really great program. Yeah.
Yeah, we always just did, like, if I was in school, I was in school. And then, like, when I homeschooled, it was just homeschooling. We never had that, like, transition. I think that would have been really helpful, though.
Yeah, it was really helpful because when you do that co-op, as far as the way our school does it, you can do all the sports that the school provides. So like you can do track, you can do golf, or do the play and go to the school dances and do all of those things, but you didn't have to like go to school to do it. So I thought it was really great. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really cool. Did you wind up doing any of those extracurriculars?
So in 6th and 7th grade, when I was still homeschooling, I did volleyball, and then I went to school and I did volleyball 8th grade. Freshman year, I also did the play in 8th grade. So it's the high school play, but they allow some middle schoolers, just because our school's so small, we need people to fill like background characters and stuff like that. So I did the play, and then freshman year, I think I did the play, and then I also did Knowledge Bowl, which is like a competition about who can answer the most not school trivia, just like trivia in general. And then I did that freshman and sophomore year. And then sophomore year, I did track, but that was also the year COVID hit. So I had 2 weeks of track. and then junior year I also did track. I got more of a track season that year, but it was still not a full season, and everything was still all wonky and the schedules are all weird. And then this year I didn't do a whole ton because surgery. I planned on doing the play, but then after I was back at school and after surgery had taken its toll, I was like, oh, I don't think I have enough time commitment for the actual play itself. So my friend and I we did the crew. So we were backstage helping people change and doing makeup and doing props and going out on stage and doing different prop things on stage. So it was still a lot of fun. And then I thought about track because I was mostly recovered, but then it's a good thing I didn't end up doing track because I had to go back in February for another exam where she actually had to cut me open a little bit more because it healed and it closed off a little too much. So she had to cut me open a little bit more. So I had to recover from that too. So yeah, but I did whatever I wanted, like whatever interested me. And my parents always were like, go for it. Like, go do whatever you want to do. And yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Did you find during COVID, when you were doing like schooling from home and stuff, was that easier for all of your health things that were going on?
I guess I I didn't really think about that, but yeah, it was easier because, if I had to use the bathroom, just turn my screen off and go run to the bathroom. And yeah, it was easier. Not really socially because I'm a very extroverted social person. So it wasn't the best, but then I also have 3 siblings I can talk to. So yeah.
Yeah. Did you find that like it affected your energy levels a lot too?
Yeah, I was definitely, because I am extroverted and I get energy from other people, I was a little bit more down and just not as like, oh, let's go do something. No, not as much, But my parents had like the system of things that motivated us because they could tell we were all down. So they had like the system of, hey, if you go out and take a bike ride, you get $5. And it was just like, little things here and there to kind of motivate us. Yeah.
Cool. So I want to go back to, I think it the V that's related to the tethered cord?
Yes.
Can you just explain what that is? I keep meaning to ask and then I get distracted.
No, yeah. So tethered cord is so your spinal cord is, within the column and everything, and it flows freely. But when someone has a tethered cord, it like just gets stuck onto, I don't know, it's different for different people. It's either like stuck to like one of the bones or stuck to just like tissue, and mine was just stuck to tissue, so they had to go in and cut it off the tissue and stuff like that. So that's basically what a tethered spinal cord is, and there are chances of it retethering, although I think my chances are really low. Like after the MRI, the neurosurgeon was like, yeah, so it's not tethered cord. Your chances of it, because of how your spine looks and everything, are actually really low of it tethering, which is really nice to hear. Because that's not a surgery you really want to go through. Because you have to, like, you get cut open and then you have to be on your back for a certain amount of time before you're allowed to actually like elevate and all this other things. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. Does that like affect the nerves through the spine?
Yes. So it caused me to be very incontinent, both urinary incontinence and fecal incontinence. I would have a lot of pee accidents, especially before, a lot of pee accidents and poop accidents, and I couldn't hold it. It wouldn't, like, my bladder or the nerves and stuff weren't working properly back and forth, so I couldn't feel I needed to go until I was basically peeing myself. And that's the same with pooping. And then afterwards I was able to regain a little more control, and just throughout the years of just me living with it, my body's kind of learned how to reconnect some wires, so I know when I have to go, and so that's nice. Yeah,
that's really good. Yeah, that your body's kind of correcting it on its own.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's all like on top of, you already had, something for A. So this was something new coming from V.
Yes, exactly. It just made A little bit worse. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. And so I wanted to also talk to you about Youth Rally a little bit, because I had never been to it. I'd never heard of it until a couple months ago. And you mentioned you grew up going to it. So
yeah, so I went in, my first year was 2016, the summer after 8th grade year. And, my mom had heard about it before, but she was really hesitant to send me because it's like, oh, like, what's going to happen? I'm not there to help her if she has any sort of medical issues. And, it's just the mom thing. Like, you're not sure how your kid's never been able to go to an overnight camp. So you never know how it's going to go,
Yeah.
But yeah, I went and it was the best experience ever. And I just kept wanting to go back. And unfortunately, it is online now, but I just got an email that hinted towards it being in person next year. So I can't wait for that.
That's awesome. So for someone who doesn't know what Youth Rally is, what would you describe it to be?
So it is basically summer camp for kids who can't go to summer camp because they deal with bowel and bladder issues. So it's located in 3 different places depending on the year. So the first year I went, it was in Seattle, and it's hosted on college campuses. So you sleep. So when it's in Seattle, we stay in UW dorms, so University of Washington dorms. And it's kind of, the way it's designed is to help you with your self-confidence, because kids, we have all these scars and we've gone through surgeries, so our body feels like it's against us, so it helps you develop the self-confidence, like positive body image. And then it also is scheduled in a way where no one's helping you, or there's people helping you if you need the help, but no one's telling you when you need to cath and when you need to do your flushes or bowel regimen or whatever, because it's trying to push you towards that independence. Now, if you need help doing something, they will, they have nurses on staff, and then all of the counselors and training and counselors actually have they have to have some sort of like bowel or bladder issue going on. So all of them, like there's a lot of Crohn's people and people with ostomies and just a lot of people, several Vacterl people. And so all the counselors know how to deal with an issue because they've gone through that issue, which is really nice. But there's a set schedule and you see the schedule at breakfast, and then that's how you kind of like plan out your day of when you're going to do your things that you need to do, because there's times where it's a normal camp day. They don't try to make sure that there's like, oh, 2 hours of free time every single day for you to do your thing. Nope. So like the first day is, everyone checks in, you kind of just hang around, and then there's an ice cream social at the end of the day. And then Tuesday, so it starts on Monday and goes till Friday. So Tuesday is all the medical diagnosis groups and medical management groups. So you go to whichever one you have. So I started out in the cloaca one, and then I visited the Vacterl one and I visited the Vacterl one, and I kind of went back and forth because it doesn't really matter because I can relate with both because I have both. So I've gone to both of them. And so you do that, you get to talk with people and share experiences, and the nurses help. And a lot of the times there is someone, especially in the medical management groups. So management can mean anything from ostomy to cathing, like self-cathing or Mitrofanoff cathing, or rectal enemas or enemas through a Malone. And so it's the entire skill of whatever anyone needs to do. And so they do have some people from like Seattle Children's. I remember a couple people came and spoke in those groups. So when I look back on the pictures, because I was missing Rally, and pictures are great. And so I went back in the pictures, and it was the male cathing group. And I realized, oh, that's my urologist. He's talking with all the guys about cathing and stuff like that. And then I remember the first year I was at Rally, I was in the Malone group, and this nurse practitioner from Seattle Children's came and spoke about the Malone and different things and different ways to help it go well. And then turns out she's on my care team when I switched my care over. And when I met her, when I had that initial appointment with her, she's like, you seem familiar. Like, do I know you from anywhere? And then we ended up somehow getting onto the topic of Rally. And I was like, that's how, like that. And then we just made that instant connection of like, oh, like, we've met each other before and stuff like that. So Tuesdays is the medical groups. And then there's usually some other, and then I think it's also, there's like a talent show on Tuesdays. And then Wednesdays, you go to like the sports and fitness center at whichever college it is, so the rec center, and you basically you choose before when you're registering for camp, you choose different things that they have listed, so like rock climbing or the biking class or Pilates or Zumba or whatever. So you choose whichever, and that's to kind of get kids to be like, you can use your body and you can do all these things and be able to rock climb and be able to play tennis and be able to play basketball in a wheelchair, all these things to show kids that they can do whatever they're interested in doing. So that's always a great day. It usually takes up most of the day because you have to walk there and then walk back. It's just a great camp for kids who, like I said, have never been to summer camp before. Their website is youthrally.com or .org. And it's just a great place for kids to be able to not only go to summer camp, but also meet people who deal with the same issues and know what they're going through, and be able to like talk with peers and talk with adults who are like, you can see they're living a completely full life.
Really great for kids to like learn all of these skills and like build the confidence and like learn that they can still live life basically.
Yeah. And then Thursdays is like a field trip day. So the first year I was there, we went to a lake and spent the entire day at the lake, paddleboarding, whatever, like just spending the day at the lake.
Fun.
And then the next time when I was in Seattle again, we went to, what was it? An amusement park just outside the city. That was like a water amusement park combo thing. Yeah, I don't remember the name, but
I don't remember the name either, but I know what you're talking about.
yes. So we went there and, you can ride the roller coasters and be able to play at the water park and walk back and forth. As long as the counselor was in sight, you could do whatever you wanted to do. So those are really great days to be able to. It also teaches you how to pack because, us medical kids always have a backpack on them wherever they go out of the house. I think that all my friends think I'm like the mom of the group because I always have a backpack. I have hand sanitizer. I have baby wipes and, everything you need. So yeah, all of us medical kids. So it teaches you how to like pack for the day and they tell you what you're going to do. And so you pack for, I need this many catheters today and to use and just be able to do all of that. But then also have complete independence, because once you check into because we've done a couple amusement parks, like Boulder, you go to an amusement park, and also in San Diego, I think it has one roller coaster in San Diego, but you get to be out in the world, but you're not regulated, you're not told what to do. You just there's a counselor there. Do you want to go do this? Do you want to ride this ride? Do whatever you want with your buddies and just be able to experience life and be like, oh, you can ride a roller coaster. Like you never thought you could, but you can. And so Thursdays are great days to just get out into the world and you're still in the rally bubble, but you have a lot more independence and stuff like that. And then Fridays, so like I said, it's the free time day. You get to go off-site, off campus, or stay on campus and whatever. And there's always the dance. There's like a dance at the end of the week where it's like, casual homecoming basically. And everyone goes, and it's also the graduation ceremony for all the people who are too old to be at rally, but they we call it it's called graduation because you really do graduate. You learn all these skills and you learn something new each time you go to rally, and then you graduate because you're ready to face the world and be able to be a young adult living with these challenges, but be able to be independent and you're ready now. Rally's helped you prepare and everything like that. So it's just I couldn't say enough good things about this camp. I love this camp. Yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps listening to what it's like. I think that's amazing that there's even something out there like that for people like us.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I met. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, didn't you mention you were going back as a counselor?
Yes. So it starts on the 12th. So next week, I'll be a counselor in training. It'll be online. I think this is the last year. I think Mary Beth sent out an email and it headed towards next year being in person. So this will be the last year of it being online, which is great because the online platform is amazing, but you don't get to experience rally in the fullness of it until you're in person, away from your parents. Your parents aren't there because you love your parents, but you've had to have a little bit of independence from them, and to be able to do summer camp without them and have like a normal kid experience. I guess I put that in quotes,
Yeah, but it's also like learning how to take care of yourself so that when you are on your own, say away at college,
yes,
you're not stuck reliant on your parents and just totally like floundering trying to figure it out. Like you already have the skills built.
Yeah. And the youngest you can go is like 11, and it goes from 11 to 17. And so you get all those childhood years, as many years as you go, to be able to build upon each skill that you have, meet new people. That's where I met my best friend. I was actually just up in Idaho yesterday because it was her birthday, and she also has Vacterl. And we met, both as 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, just shyly like, hi, what's your name? Like, what do you have? And now I'm driving up 2 hours to go spend the entire day with her. And we've gone back and forth. She's flown up to my house because she originally lives down in San Diego, but she's living with a different family and helping out that family right now as a job. And so we would fly back and forth. She would fly up here, come see me, and I would fly down there to go see her. And, we're best friends.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's something I also missed out on, was like meeting other people like myself that I could be friends with and have that connection with.
Yeah, it was really great. Just because you can talk to doctors and ask them questions, but it's really different when it's someone else who's been through that and someone else who's your age. And then you can talk back and forth if you are going through, like if I do go through issues and stuff like that, especially when we were long distance, we would always FaceTime at least like once a week and just be able to catch up. Like, how did your week go? Like, if not more than once a week. Especially during COVID, we always FaceTime back and forth. And she also does bowel management. So most of the time it was both of us on the toilet, FaceTiming back and forth and talking and whatever and watching a show together or just sitting there. We don't have to talk. We're just doing our own thing. But we are so comfortable with each other and we can just, be able to have that connection without even being talking the entire time. And it's not awkward. And she and I just find like great companionship and being able to relate to each other.
Yeah. There's just a completely different level of like understanding and like comfortability around people like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I'm definitely going to be linking you, Thrally, in the show notes for this.
Yes.
So anyone listening who has a kid around that age, 11 to 17, look into it. I definitely wish I had known about it.
Yeah. No, it's amazing.
Yeah. So what are things that you do on a daily basis then? Like different medications and preventive care and things like that you kind of deal with?
Yeah, so I self-cath at least 4 times a day, and I just make sure to drink plenty of water because when you self-cath, you're already introducing bacteria. So I have to use like a BZK antibacterial wipe before I cath and drink a bunch of water and then like keep my salt levels down a little bit. And then I also do bowel management through my Malone. So I have a solution of like saline and glycerin. We're trying to tweak that. Actually, I'm having some issues with it, but I basically run that through my belly button and I poop on the toilet for an hour. It's only supposed to take an hour. Right now it's taking a little bit longer than an hour, which is why we're trying to get it to only be condensed to that long. Most bowel management, from what I understand, obviously there's so many different ways to do it, but most of it is about an hour. 45 minutes to an hour is like the ideal golden time that you want to be sitting on, because any more than that and it just gets in the way of being able to do things and stuff like that. So we're trying to tweak that right now for me. It's been causing some issues, but nothing I can't fix or whatever. And so I do that. And then I take like oxybutynin for my neurogenic bladder to keep the bladder spasms down. And that's, yearly checkups. I've had a lot more doctor's visits and telehealth visits lately because of everything else going on. But unless I have an issue, I'm all good for a year. Yeah. And
that's great.
When I was younger, though, when I was with just the one urologist, I would go every year for like a urodynamics test to make sure my bladder pressures were good, to make sure I didn't have any reflux. And then I always get blood work. And then if it was a year that I didn't do the urodynamics, then I would get, is it cystoscopy? I don't know, where they look into your bladder.
Yep. Cystoscopy.
Yep. So I would get, if I wasn't doing urodynamics, then I would be getting scoped. But so far, so good. Yeah.
Good. How often do you have bladder spasms?
So if I didn't take my medication, because it stays in my system for a little bit, but if I didn't take it, like this one time, I was running low, so we called the pharmacy, but they couldn't refill it for whatever reason. I went like a week without it, and I had like actual withdrawal symptoms, like, from someone who's like addicted to something else. Like I had, sweating, temperature fluctuations, headache, and then I would have bladder spasms all throughout the day at random. They're just random times. Usually it's when my bladder's filling up, but like just random times. And then it would cause me, obviously, when your bladder squeezes, you either have an accident or you run to the bathroom. And so, but thankfully those are under control because of my medicine. Yeah.
Yeah. Were yours painful? Because mine were always super painful when I had spasm.
Depends. Most of the time it's mild, but every once in a while I'll get like, just the sharp pain. I'll be like, oh, that's not pleasant. Like, but it was never, I mean, I don't remember exactly how bad they were when I was little that caused me to actually go onto the medication in the first place, because I started that medication when I was like 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
So I've been on it for a very long time, like 14 years, I guess is how long that is.
Wow.
So I don't know exactly how bad it was, but yeah, it was, I would have bladder spasms all the time. So yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's not fun. I mean, thank goodness for medicine and being able to prevent it, but
yes,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
So what's next on your plans? What are you moving on to?
I'm moving on. Well, right now I'm enjoying my summer before I start college. So I get rally next week, and then I go to Glacier the week after that because my brother's up in Montana for a summer camp right now, and he has the weekend off. So we're going to go do Glacier. And then the week after that, so the first week of August, I'll be going down to Florida to go visit some. So when you get adopted, you go in groups usually most of the time. You're with an adoption agency and you have other families who are adopting at the same time as you. And so we're going down to my sister's adoption group and basically having a reunion, I guess. We usually do it every summer, an adoption reunion. So we'll be down in Orlando doing whatever the moms have planned. I mean, it's just a vacation for me. And then we also have family down in Florida. So I'll get to meet my new baby cousin that was born, I think, in the winter. So I get to go meet him and just have vacation. And then when I get back, it's pretty much like get ready to move into college and do pre-orientation and then orientation and then classes start. Yeah.
What college are you going to?
I'm going to Gonzaga University. I don't know if you've heard of them. It's just like a private university up here. They're mostly known for their basketball, I guess.
I've heard of the school. I just don't know like where it is in Washington.
It's in Spokane. So it put Spokane on the map more because they were doing so well with their basketball program. And I think this program, they didn't win, or this year they didn't win whatever college bracket, but next year it sounds like they're going to win. So I'll get some good games in and be able to watch them. But yeah, it's just 30 minutes away from my house. So I guess my parents are happy about that.
Yeah. Are you going to be living on campus?
Yes, but I think only for this year, mostly because I got scholarships, and then my dad was in the military, so he has what's called a GI Bill, and it's 4 years of college paid for your kids, but he chose to have 4 kids, so gotta split it amongst all of us. Each one of us gets a year, so that pays for my room and board, so which is nice for the first year, but I don't know if I'll be able to afford living on campus. And I'm already going to have to take out loans for just the tuition part of it. So maybe not. But this first year I'll be on campus.
Do you feel prepared for having that independence and like managing all of your medical things while at school? I mean, that's a big change, isn't it?
It is, especially with the roommate situation. That was tricky because Gonzaga only has like traditional or suite style. They don't have any single private rooms, which was kind of like difficult and nerve-wracking because you have to tell your roommate. So I ended up going with a suite style with 6 people in a suite sharing 2 toilets. So that's why I chose that one, is because there were 2 toilets available. So if I was occupying one, then the other one is free and open for whoever else needs it. But I feel pretty prepared. I was able to tell my roommate everything that she needs to know, like, oh, I need to use the bathroom for at least an hour and a half every day to, flush out my colon and everything. And I cath to empty my bladder. And so she took it all in stride. She was okay with it, which is, it's always, you never know how someone's going to react, and you can't blame them if they like react badly, because it's not normal, I guess, for them. You forget sometimes that it's not normal because it is normal for you. Right. It's, I got to pack this many catheters and I gotta do this and everything like that. So it's my normal, but then I forget that it's not other people's normals. So I have to, like, I was like, oh shoot, like I have a roommate, but I need to tell her. So I did. But yeah, that's the next step.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like you're pretty well prepared. I mean, it sounds like you thoroughly did a good job of bringing you skills and preparing you for not having parents around to tell you to do things.
Yes.
So it should be all set up. But is there anything else that you wanted to talk about, or?
Oh, I did forget one thing about like everyday or like continual, I don't know, work or continual stuff that you have to do.
Maintenance.
But yeah, maintenance. There you go. Continual maintenance. I was also born with this other thing called MRKH, which affects like 1 to every 5,000 girls, where you are born with like an underdeveloped or completely absent uterus and vaginal canal. It's also called like Müllerian agenesis. And it's where your Müllerian ducts don't develop when you're in the womb. So you don't have a uterus, or you were born with an underdeveloped one / the top 2/3 of your vaginal canal. So I was born with that. And so I had a hysterectomy when I was 6, when they did the reconstruction and everything. And then I also had the vaginoplasty done, but to keep it up so that I can eventually have sex one day, I have to do what's called vaginal dilations to keep it open and do that every day. Or guess I haven't been doing it lately, but do that regularly to, eventually be able to have sex in the future. But that's like the only other upkeep thing. Yeah.
And that was MRKH?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just curious so I can research it a little more.
Yeah. Some good resources, I guess, if you want to research more, is Beautiful You, MRKH, Beautiful You. And then there's also, I'm a part of the organization, I think they're based in the UK, called MRKH Stars. So I'm on their writing team. And so it's basically a resource for young and newly diagnosed, because most people, I mean, we knew this when I got all these tests done after being adopted, but most people don't find out until they're like 16, when they realize, I don't have a period. And so for young and newly, you don't have a period because most people have their ovaries, but you don't have a period because your uterus is too underdeveloped to function, or you don't have one at all. And so it's like, you don't have a period, like why? And that's when most people find out. And so I'm a part of the writing team. I write different things, whatever I'm told to write about, basically. My last project was, if you had one word to describe your MRKH journey, what would it be? And so that one got published on their Instagram page. And it's a great resource because they have also their buddy program, I believe is what it's called, Stars Buddy Program, or Shooting Stars Program, where basically they're a public account. So if you see anything, like either on their TikTok or on their Instagram, and it's like they'll post every once in a while, like, hey, if you need someone to talk to, or you just need a buddy who knows what you're going through, because, MRKH, you deal with not having a period, but then that also means you can't have kids. And so like all these different things going along with it. And then like choosing surgery over dilation, because most people who have MRKH, I guess it depends on where in the country and which country you're in, but most people, like, they have to either do vaginal dilations or do surgery and then do dilations after surgery. So like if you needed support for that, they're like, if you need support for anything or just need to talk to someone, send the shooting stars emoji. And then they know that, you're looking to, be able to talk to someone, you're feeling down, you are struggling. And so then they match you up with someone who's around your same age, or maybe a little bit older, because I guess it's, I don't know, like just a back and forth communication thing where you get paired with someone and that person will like help you talk. And if you just need to rant to someone, they're your buddy. So they're there to help you go through whichever struggles you're facing. And I think that's a really great program. And so, yeah, it's just a great resource for young and newly diagnosed people.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be linking probably both of those in the show notes as well. That's, I love that so much.
Yeah.
That they have like a buddy system. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So does that mean you can't have kids?
Yes. So I can't carry my own kids. I can have biological kids because I do have both ovaries, but I can't be pregnant at all. So I would have to do
like a
surrogacy, yeah, or adoption. So just other ways of having kids.
Yeah. I mean, at least you can still have kids should you, decide to want to do that in the future. I mean,
yeah.
Still an option. It's not completely off the table.
Yes. And then uterus transplants are going on right now. I don't know, because I first met with the first time I actually met with a gynecologist was when I switched care to Seattle Children's. And she actually mentioned it because I knew they were going on. But I was like, oh, I would never qualify. But she was like, oh, uterus transplants are an option. I was like, oh, I didn't know I qualified or would even could think about it because of my extensive medical history and everything like that. But it's an option. I don't know if I will take that option, but right now I'm following someone who's just got their transplant 12 weeks ago. And so I've been following along on her Instagram. And so it's been cool to be able to see the process because she's sharing everything ups, downs. And so it's just really cool to be able to see everything that goes on in that process. And so, yeah.
That's really cool. I didn't know that was a thing. I mean, I know obviously transplants for certain things is a thing. I just never really thought about that organ specifically.
Yeah, it's still in its trial stage right now. So the only people who can get it is if they qualify for a trial. It's not open to the public yet. But, I'm still young and, medicine is changing very quickly every day. And yeah.
Yeah, maybe whenever you're actually ready to do it, it'll be available and a little bit more ironed out.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. What just incredible stuff going on for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've been through the ringer a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're still smiling.
Yep.
Thanks for talking to me about everything.
Yeah.
I think it's really nice to be able to talk to people about it and put your story out there. Just because I feel like it's things that people don't talk about normally.
Exactly. I know. When I I created my medical account on Instagram, I guess. And at first I was like, oh, shoot, what are people going to think? It's still private right now just because, you never know, because it's a lot of people I know. So I want to be the person telling people, not anyone else telling people. And so that's why it's still private. And certain people because my school's so small, I know everyone who went to school. So if one of the freshmen wanted to follow me, I'm like, that's not something that I really care about you knowing, or not that you knowing, but it's just, this is for people who I have relationships with who want to stay updated about my life and that aspect of my life. But at first I was like, should I even make it? Oh, it's, all this. And then I was still hesitant about is this podcast really something I want to do?
Yeah,
because it's talking about not so. Yeah, it is. It is. This is the first time I've gone publicly, I guess, because it's oh, you're talking about poop and pee and your vagina and stuff like that. And so it's just you never know how people are going to react. But then what if it reaches someone out there who can relate and who's struggling and just needs to be able to hear this from someone, that it does get better, and that you don't have to let this hold you back from doing whatever it is you want to do. I'm studying to become a nurse and I'm minoring in Spanish and I'm going to study abroad, or hopefully, I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But, you're able to travel, you're able to go have fun at an amusement park, you're able to live your life without anything. I mean, there'll be little bumps and bruises here and there of oh, this doesn't go right. Oh, I'm in the middle of a bump and bruise right now because I'm trying to get my bowel routine down and to not have to sit on there for 2 hours and to not have accidents and stuff. But you have to when you hear someone else's story and hear that they've had similar struggles, but they're still positive and they're on the bright side and they're living their life, despite everything that life has thrown at them. I think it's really great for young people to be able to hear that from people, like from others, and to be like, oh, I can do that too.
It's just really encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's encouraging for them, and also I think for the parents too.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I know my mom was just terrified for me my entire upbringing. I'm sure yours was too, but
yes.
Yeah, I think also just having this out there for parents, like, okay, they'll
my
be
kid's
fine.
They'll be okay. Yeah, I joined a couple, like, because I'm new to Facebook. Instagram's my platform, but one thing about Facebook is they have like all the groups on there.
Yes,
and so that's why I got Facebook. I was like, oh, that's actually where I found your podcast. Was someone posted it on the Facebook group, and I just started listening to it, and I was like, oh, this is great. But I'm on Facebook group for people or parents of kids who live with peripheral anus, which is also like goes along with the cloaca thing, and Vacterl, and just all these different support groups. And parents will post like, oh my gosh, like my kid is having to do this and this, and I've been able to like help as the kid who's gone through this to be able to be like, this is a bumpy patch, or like to help a parent make a decision. I had this one parent who she was hesitant about her son was born with imperfect anus, and he had an ostomy, because that's what you usually do when your kid is born. So like, I guess I never mentioned that was I didn't have my first surgery for my bodily functions until I was almost 2 years old. So I was living, and I had so many infections probably during that time. And I had so many UTIs to the point where when I got adopted, and there was just raging infections all the time, but I didn't know it because my body was so used to it.
Oh, wow.
But when you're born with imperfect anus, you are brought to surgery pretty much as soon as possible, as soon as they can get someone to do it and someone who's qualified to do it. And you have an ostomy so that you have a way of expelling poop from your body so you don't, get backed up and everything. And so her son he's still a baby, but she was debating on like, oh, should I really put my son through surgery because he's doing well with his ostomy? But I was like, well, you could keep the ostomy, or you could give him a shot. And the worst that can happen is he chooses to go back to an ostomy when he's older. But it's always best to try to like function normally, in quotes, because but it's always best to like give your kid the chance to at a more normal life, I think, because kids are mean sometimes, and kids can pick on other kids, and sometimes if you have an accident, or if a kid sees something that's different, like you have an ostomy and the kid sees it, and then it just makes you self-conscious of it.
Yeah.
And everything like that. And so it's always like, oh, what's the other kid gonna think? So when you give your kid a chance to have a normal life, I think it's so much better for just their overall health and the mental health too. And to be able to, because I mean, having an invisible illness is, it's hard because people don't know that you're going through all these things, but then it's also a blessing in itself, because then people don't have to know. Like if there's,
you can kind of be more picky and be able to choose who you want to let see
exactly
side, and it gives you, I think, a little bit more of the self-confidence as well.
It does. So yeah, so I've just been able to help other parents to like see that, and see that yes, if they choose surgery, their kid has to deal with all these other things, like bowel management, for instance. A lot of kids with IA have to do bowel management, but it gives them a shot to be able to live their life and everything like that. I mean, you can still live your life with an ostomy. I have several friends with ostomies, and they're like, that's great. But, it's just all the different things. Like, don't let a surgery that could help your kid's quality of life hold you back just because it's surgery and they have to deal with all these things, because they will still end up living their life despite whatever it is they have to go through.
Yeah. I think definitely it's a case of like parents letting the fear of what the surgery is going to be like and how that's going to be for their kid that holds them back from like pulling the trigger and saying, yes, let's do it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. But then you also have to have the other balance of, oh, maybe this surgery isn't the best. Like I almost got a motivational. It was offered. My mom was offered to like, because when I got my Malone, they were like, oh, maybe we should do a motivational at the same time, you know, kill two birds with one stone. But my mom's like, well, she's doing great with her cathing. Her infections are down. Like she's doing great as far as that goes. So she was like, nope, we're not going to do the surgery. And I'm very grateful for that because I would not want to deal with the Mitrofanov. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I love the Mitrofanov.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I've heard a lot of, like, my mom heard a lot of things about it getting infected easily or about having to do bladder irrigations. And that was something that she didn't want me to have to do because I was already doing a bunch of other things. So I have friends who have Mitrofanovs and they love it and it's great for them. But I'm glad my mom didn't choose that for me because it would have been another thing that I just would have had to deal with. It would have been normal, but I'm glad that I don't have to deal with those things. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's pros and cons either way you look at it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm really glad and kind of honored that you chose my podcast to be the first like public arena that you're talking about this. So thank you for coming on.
Well, thank you for having the podcast in the first place. Yeah, I never really found one that was about, you know, bowel and bladder things. Oh, I mean, it started out as just, you know, your story with all the problems you were having with your bladder and everything, bladder exstrophy. And then it just grew to be more like, you know, all these challenges that everyone has to deal with, whether that's you're born with it or you got it later in life, like chronic illnesses and stuff like that. So I just love the platform. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just because we've got different things going on doesn't mean we can't relate. You know, we've both still been medical children, basically.
Yes.
That's a shared experience all in itself. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Body Talk with Becks. I hope you enjoyed this interview with Lily about Vacterl and the variety of challenges that comes with. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts at. Also consider becoming a patron on patreon.com. We just rolled out some new great stickers for patrons, which are also available on the website. If you would like to share your story or know someone who would like to, I can be contacted through my website, www.bodytalkwithbecks.com, or on social media. Thanks for listening.